Hey, what's up? This is Jay Crimson from the Crimson Cult Podcast. If you are interested in starting your own podcast like me, there's no place to go but Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the best and easiest way to make a podcast. You can trim, edit, add music, add background noises, whatever, all on your phone. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thanks for listening.
Hello.
Hey, it's Ari Lehman calling.
Hey, how are you, sir? Welcome to the cult.
Well, thank you so much. The Crimson Cult.
That is correct.
That's awesome. Are you recording already?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I always like to know those things. Well, yeah. It's me, Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, 1980, calling you from Camp Crystal Lake.
Ha ha ha. So you were the very first actor ever to play horror slasher icon Jason Voorhees.
I do have that distinct honor. I am
is badass.
The original, the very first, the boy in the lake actor. You know, so and recently I did have the opportunity to go to Camp Crystal Lake, which was really great. I was at the location itself.
So last night,
yeah. I went right in the water.
So last night I interviewed Brad Laurie. I don't know if you know who that is.
Of course, Brad Laurie. Yeah, I just worked with him. I worked with him about a year ago in Dusseldorf? Yeah, was it Dusseldorf? Yeah, I think it was in Germany. We did a show together. Because he is, of course, he played Michael Myers, and he's good friends with Ken Kersinger. They both live kind of in the same region of Canada.
Yeah, that's his mentor, he was telling me.
Yeah. So, yeah, Brad is great fun. He's amazing.
So.
Very cool guy. But yeah, I'm the first Jason, the boy in the lake, the original one, and here we are. It's 41 years later. It's very gratifying to me that people still enjoy this film. People just love to revisit Camp Crystal Lake. And, in as much as there's all these actors that have played Jason and all these other storylines and everything, but ultimately people just watch Friday the 13th Part 1 almost on a ritualistic basis. It's a cult unto itself, if you will, Jay. And
right, all the way back in 1980.
Yeah, filmed in 1979, released in 1980, and people still, they say, well, it's Friday the 13th. I better go back to camp, if you will, and see what's going on Halloween too, So
how was it working with Sean S. Cunningham?
Well, that was amazing. I originally auditioned for Sean by sneaking into audition at the YMCA. He cast me for an 80-line role in a comedy. Not Friday the 13th. This was a comedy. It was a heartwarming tale about a ragtag bunch of orphans who win their orphanage back from the mob in a soccer tournament. So I landed an 80-line role in this movie.
Wow.
They felt, here's a kid who has, some promise as a kind of a Danny Bonaducci kind of, character, kind of a,
okay,
that kind of freckle-faced, wise-ass character.
Right.
And, which was a lot of fun for me, and that was really cool. It was kind of like the Bad News Bears of soccer. Do you remember that movie?
Right, I do.
Which is like a comedy about baseball. But see, now soccer did not have a lot of fans in 1979. So what happened was the production house said to him, hey, Sean, this is great, but we need something else. Can you give us something else? Can you give us something horror? Because Last House on the Left. So the next thing I know, I'm picking up the phone, and he's like, Ari, we need you to come down because we're doing another film this year. And I was like, wow, that's so awesome. You know, and as the story goes, I was originally handed the wrong script. The script
really?
read, it says, you know, I was about 13 years old, and it says the character goes off with his girlfriend to make out in the woods. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. Like, wow, you know, because I was pretty much just a kid. And then Sean Cunningham walked in, and he saw what was going on, and he saw the look on my face, and he was like, okay, wait a second. And he grabbed the script, and it was Kevin Bacon's script for the Kevin Bacon character.
Of course it was.
And you know that character?
Yeah.
The character that, you know, he's banging the other counselor in the bunk there, which is an amazingly twisted scene. But, you know, so Sean said to me, now, Ari, you know, that's not your character, but you do have a big character. And he handed me a different script, and he said, okay, you're going to be the monster. So, you know, Sean's really good at working with kids, and he made me, you know, feel real charged up about it. And then I went through the script, of course, you know, because what actors do is they count the number of lines they have. You know, I had an 80-line role in the previous film. And, of course, little Jason has no lines, so I'm going through there, and there's no lines whatsoever.
Right.
You know? I was like, what's going on? You know?
Big difference.
He said, well, you know, you're going to be a monster, and I thought, well, that's cool, you know. I guess I'll have to put all of my feelings into my eyes and my body language. And then, of course, Tom Savini told me, well, Ari, one of your eyes is going to be a glass eye, so you're going to have to put all your feeling and emotions into one eye. And that's all I had. But I had a great experience working on the set, and Tom Savini and Sean Cunningham made sure that I had a lot of fun on the set. You know, people often ask me, was I scared? You know, there's always the story of Danny Lloyd, who was in The Shining, who didn't actually know that he was in a horror film. Well, no such protection was taken with me, because I think I was scaring them. I was pretty much, you know, into the joke, and I wanted to be a part of it. And, you know, indeed, when we did that final sequence, when poor Alice is dragged into the icy waters, you know, we didn't really tell her what was going on the first take, so that she was pretty scared when I jumped out of the water there. So, but that was all, you know, part of making it scary for everybody.
Excellent. So, yeah, and it's definitely a cult classic. So this was cast in New York, and you're from New York.
Yes, that's true. Which makes it a lot different than most films out there. Yes, and that's why, of course, Betsy Palmer was in it. I was born in New York City and grew up around New York City. And that's why I started learning jazz music and eventually went into world music and rock and roll. But the way that it was cast was largely from TV and theater. So it may be that is one reason why Friday the 13th was kind of a breakout from what other films were going on at the time. You know, there was kind of in the 70s, there was so much of a focus on these female-driven, mystical, occult films like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist and The Omen and Damien. And then, of course, there was Jaws. And Jaws came out and kind of reminded us how we love a monster. So that kind of changed things there. And I think that in many ways, Friday the 13th was trying to echo that. You know, little Jason is kind of like Jaws in the woods, if you will, I guess. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. You were trained in classical music, weren't you? Piano?
Yes. At first, classical, and then I started studying jazz. I had the opportunity to work with some great jazz teachers, jazz piano teachers, And that's really what began my interest in music. You know, I got a scholarship from Dr. Billy Taylor to study jazz, and I just dove into it, and, you know, I was becoming a jazz piano player, which was very cool, you know, at the time. And, but, you know, I mean, way back then all of a sudden there became this kind of like easy jazz, you know?
Yeah.
And I was into like, you know, kind of frenetic, out there jazz that was influenced by Latin music and African music and all kinds of crazy music and just wonderful stuff. And, you know, third string jazz, they called it. And there was a great movement of that. But then, you know, people, you know, there's always these stereotypes. So here I was, you know, kind of a skinny white guy with long curly hair who played jazz. People said, well, you're Kenny G. You know, you've got to be the Kenny G kind of jazz. And I was like, no, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and other things. But ultimately, if I was going to pursue jazz, you know, that's why I kind of turned away from that and started to look at other music. And I ended up in the world music scene. That's where I ended up working for Interscope Records and Tough Ground Records, which is Bob Marley's own label. And toured even in Ivory Coast, West Africa. I was touring with Reggae Sunsplash band as a keyboardist and singer. So that's when I was a sideman, you know, doing a lot of amazing shows back in the 90s. You know, and I basically forgot completely that I was Jason Voorhees. You know, at that time, I was just touring with world music bands. But, you know, times change, and many things happen that changed, you know, the focus. Like at that time, horror was kind of taboo, to tell you the truth. It would never be seen as mainstream as it is today.
Right.
And, you know, what it was this whole fandom thing. Somebody emailed me and said, did you sign this photo? And I said, what? You know, what do you mean? He said, yeah, you're Ari Lehman. You played this character. And I said, yes, that's me. Well, someone just sold me this photo on eBay for $50. I said, what? And, you know, somebody had forged my autograph.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So we got to the bottom of that, and the person claimed that they had been, you know, from a third party and returned some of the money. But then it dawned on me, hey, you know, as any performer says, you know, where there's a market, where there's interest, and that's when I started to connect with the fans. And the first time was at a Fangoria convention way back when at the Meadowlands, and there were thousands of people there. It was amazing.
So do you do a lot of conventions? Do you share who's some actors, directors that you've shared conventions with?
Well, at first, I really was more keen on doing conventions, and I got to meet, you know, all the Jasons, of course, Betsy Palmer, who played Mama Voorhees, and I got to meet, you know, Robert Englund, who played, you know, Freddy Krueger, and I got to meet Tony Todd, Candyman.
Excellent.
Of course, Cassandra Peterson, who's Elvira.
Nice.
And all these people were very supportive and helpful to me. And also, I even got to go to Italy, and I was the MC at an award ceremony where I gave out awards to Dario Argento and Lamberto Bava and Mario Bava, and you know, it was all run by Ruggero Deodato at a big opera house. And, you know, things back then were a little different. And
right.
I've definitely met, you know, just some people that I really, really respect and admire, and were always helpful to me. And I got to reconnect with people like Tom Savini and Ann Schiff, and see people. And most importantly, the interaction with the fans, of course, which is super amazing, because, you know, the fan interest and the fan love of Jason Voorhees is really what's kept him alive all this time. And the way that people are so devoted to Jason is just amazing. So when I witnessed that, I realized I just had to be a part of it, you know, no matter what. And, you know, but now as things changed, you know, I think that around the time of The Walking Dead, okay, there was a big kind of change in the way that conventions were approached and operated, and it became kind of more of an emphasis on, well, of course, you know, I guess the whole thing with the camera phone and the selfie coming into play and all these other things, you know, coming into play. And, you know, just the immense popularity of The Walking Dead itself kind of began to eclipse a lot of the other classic series at that time. Now, looking back, it's not really the same, but I sensed a change in the weather, and that's when my focus really became much more centralized on the band First Jason. So, you know, having a rock band gives me the ability to basically create a little horror night anywhere I go. So anywhere First Jason appears, you know, we do a meet and greet, and that includes if younger fans want to meet us, if we're working in a bar, we'll arrange a meeting at a comic book shop or a toy store or whatever, and, you know, sign Funko Pops all day and do that. And then, you know, then we meet and greet the fans, and we work together with local horror rock bands, you know, and just making a mini rock and roll night. And that's what we've been doing, you know, with great success. And, you know, I'll be frank, you know, if I put together 2 or 3 of those, I'm doing better than if I go to one horror convention. I'm reaching more fans. And now, as much as I love the conventions and will be appearing at some this year, I do think that for me, a lot of times, you know, just appearing at these venues, like in March, we're going to be at, you know, the Mooney Bin in Bradley, Illinois. We'll be at the Shrine. We'll be back at the Shrine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, and last Halloween, we were at the Wildcatter Saloon in Katy, Texas, and we're going to be back there. You know, it's an interesting community because you've got everything from metalheads, horror punk, tattoo artists, hearse enthusiasts. You know, there's this big community, and these shows really afford everybody an opportunity to show off their stuff, even in just faraway locales, you know. That said, I do have a lot of hope for what's going on in horror, because you look at all these new series that are coming out. You have all these amazing horror series that are out there, whether it's, you know, Stranger Things and
I like that one.
American Horror Story. And,
classic.
Yeah, and these are, you know, this is really a new thing, you know, if you will. So those are new celebs for people to meet, and we've got this independent horror scene, which has also become very strong. So, you know, I have a lot of hope for everything. Of course, with the quarantine restrictions, there's been pretty much no horror conventions.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
We've been playing at drive-in movie theaters. We've been doing outdoor shows. We've been doing pop-up events. You know, so, I mean, it's kind of a strange situation, but for me, in the sense that our draw is a few hundred instead of a few thousand. But it's definitely reliable. So some of these venues who are stuck and saying, man, you know, we need to make something happen. They're calling me in. You know, we're showing Friday the 13th. We're doing costume contests. We're doing all those kinds of things. And, you know, I mean, we got to keep these venues open.
Right.
You know, these people have been there for me all along. When I just say, hey, you know, I'm coming through Oklahoma, where can I play? Or we're going through Pennsylvania, and, you know, we sold out the Mahoning Drive-In because they showed an amazing copy of Friday the 13th, and, you know, but they've been doing that as a tradition for years. I think that the drive-in thing is picking up, and, you know, people are finding different options. There's always different options, you know.
So, yeah, first, Jason is a metal punk band. So are you working with Chuck from Macabre?
Okay, Chuck, you know Macabre?
Yeah.
Macabre is awesome, bro. You're a Macabre fan?
I remember seeing Macabre open up for, I think, Slayer at Harpo's in Detroit.
Yep. Mm-hmm. They've opened for Slayer, Cannibal Corpse. They've opened for just about everybody. They've been around for 20 years. The first death metal band to use all double bass drum on an album all the way through 20-something years ago. They just released a new album, Carnival Killers. It's amazing. I benefited from the presence of Chuck, also known as Nefarious, because they were going through a kind of a hiatus. They had a break for about a year or so. So it wasn't that he had quit Macabre at all, but he kind of jumped in and did some shows and some recordings with us. So, but that's years ago now. I haven't had Chuck on the scene for, I think, over 10 years at this point. So the current lineup is Eddie Machete on guitar, who is a student of Joe Satriani, Fabian Arroyo, who's on the drums, who plays with a lot of great Chicago bands, including Vicious Attack, and John Leonard, who's also with Vicious Attack, and the famous bass amp, who plays drums and bass for us, and is also our van driver, and is an amazing musician from St. Louis. And with that lineup, we've been slugging it out for about 7 years, and I'm happy to say that doing live shows consistently has really paid off, and we've really been able to reach fans, and working together with the local bands and the local venues has been the greatest thing for me. So, you know, we're going back and doing that as much as we can, everywhere we can.
Our band should get together and play a show or some shit sometime.
What are you talking about? Let's make it happen. That's where are you located?
I am in Port Huron, Michigan, or St. Clair County.
Well, yeah, we need to do a show up there. We need to play in. We've played in Kalamazoo. We played in Ann Arbor. We played in Detroit, and as a matter of fact, we need to do more shows out there. So that's what I'm saying. Set it up.
I'm pretty sure first Jason played at the IROC, like.
Yep, in Detroit. Yep,
yeah, and they don't do shows much anymore. But Harpo's once
those
all this
brothers are really cool. The IROC, I remember those guys.
Yeah, once
Very
all this
cool.
COVID stuff, hopefully it'll die down a bit and we'll get back to business.
We gotta make the business happen. It's up to us, man. The thing that happened that was so great for First Jason was that after slugging it out and doing all that, a kind of younger band who has a lot of attention right now, Ice Nine Kills.
We've opened for them.
You opened for Ice Nine Kills?
Yeah, my band No Class Assassins, we played Warped Tour 2010, and they were part of that lineup.
There you go, man. So you know Spencer, you know what I'm talking about. So Spencer asked me to sing on one of his tracks. Thank God it's Friday, because they did a whole horror album, Silver Screen.
That's cool.
Which got a lot of attention, man. I mean, they're getting millions and millions of well-deserved hits on Spotify. But so he did an acoustic version of that song and asked me to sing on it, and I was so honored, and I jumped in there. And that got us a lot of love and attention from that whole generation. So now when we do shows, there's a lot of Ice Nine Kills t-shirts and people coming up and showing the love. Not like their crowd, but, in terms of numbers, but it swelled our numbers. And we're very happy with that. And so now, you heard that song, The Scapegoat.
Yes.
So Spencer just threw some vocals. He did, like when I'm singing The Scapegoat, he did a call and response on the chorus. He added some vocals on the chorus. I'm going to release that, I think, this weekend. I'm going to put it up to digital distribution. It'll probably take like 2 weeks to hit the airwaves. And also, Sean Browning, Wretched Grave Robber from the band Grave Robber, put some really creepy voiceover on there where he's reciting the chapters from Leviticus about the scapegoat, but in this like really creepy voice. It's like sick.
That's cool. It's kind of reminiscent of Vincent Price in Thriller.
Yeah, but if Vincent Price was like a demon on acid.
Oh shit.
No, I mean his voice is like, it is like that. You're right. It's our Thriller on acid in hell.
What are some of the coolest bands you've played with First Jason?
Well, my gosh, we've gotten to open for Wednesday 13. We've gotten open for 40. We got to actually play a show with Type O Negative back in the day in Massachusetts at the Worcester.
That's awesome.
Gosh, it's Erie Vaughn, Michael Graves. I know, but yes, Michael, and and Macabre. We got to open for Macabre. That was an honor. The list goes on. I've gotten to I worked for Prince. I worked for Bob Marley's label. But as First Jason, we've gotten to perform with so many amazing bands. It's just one of the things that makes it what we do so much fun.
And are you the vocalist and you play guitar?
I play guitar. I'm playing a guitar, which is, if you look at our videos, my guitar looks kind of weaponized.
Yeah.
So it's like a weapon-looking guitar. Originally, it was on a giant machete, we got to play with Green Jello quite a bit. I don't know if there's any Green Jello fans out there.
Actually, my band has opened for Green Jelly more times than any other band.
Shut up!
Right before COVID, we played.
I can be with you, but I don't know how many. We've definitely at least opened for them we opened for them. The last show we did with them, they played the Friday night headliner, and we played the Saturday night headliner. I'm proud to say. But the year before that, we did open for them at Herman Hideaway.
Yeah, that was one of our last shows before COVID in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with Green Jelly.
Big.
It was at the Ruin.
Sure, I know that place.
Small dive, and it's great.
Yeah, no, that place is cool.
What are some influences?
There's a horror con coming up, Fort Wayne Fright Fest. Do you know about this?
No.
Are you in that area?
It's about 6 hours.
Oh, okay. Well then, they're doing a thing in October, Fort Wayne Fright Fest, and we're gonna be there, and they've got a bunch of cool bands. They got like a Cirque du Soleil thing. They got Kane Hodder. Adrian King is supposed to be there, and Kane Hodder.
How was it working with Adrian King?
Adrian is awesome. She's a super, super cool lady. I was instructed not to interact with her.
Really?
I was instructed to literally kind of hide in the woods with my they didn't want anybody to see the makeup to spoil that dramatic moment. But Adrian is a cool lady who's an artist, and she has her own Crystal Lake wines, which she paints the labels for, which are fantastic, which kind of inspired me to do my own hot sauce line. But,
yeah.
Yeah, she's super cool. But, in all honesty, outside of just grabbing her and bringing her in the water, that was about it. The whole deal was, Sean Cunningham said to me, Ari, the cameras are rolling, okay? But you're not going to be able to hear me say action because you're underwater. So you're the director. What a great thing to say. He's like, you're the director. To a little kid,
Right,
so,
because he can just edit that later.
Yeah, but he didn't tell anybody else that he had told me that. And the cameras were rolling. He didn't tell Savini. He didn't tell Adrian. So I went out in the water, and I thought everybody knew, and I just grabbed the side of the boat, and I just, as you see the way you can see it now in the GIF, so to speak, you'll see that it's sandwiched. They sandwiched take 2 around take 1. Okay? Take 1 in the middle is, like, at first you see me from kind of this shot, and my arm is there, and then all of a sudden it's a tight shot. That tight shot, close up, is take 1. And what happens is when my arm hits her chest, you'll see her face go into shock, and then they cut it and go back to the medium shot. So she got scared, bless her heart, and threw my arms off of her and yelled out, oh shit, and fell in the water. So I thought, oh my God,
She probably started laughing, huh? Shortly after.
I thought I was she was shocked, dude, because that makeup, she had no idea. The next thing, I grabbed, that's what I did. It's right there. And underwater, I contemplated, am I going to do this gently, or am I going to be a monster? And I thought, this is a freaking horror movie, and I've got one shot here, So I just did it with, I guess you could say, a little violence. So I thought, my God, I've ruined this whole movie. I'm this deranged child, and I mangled this person, and, so he said, do take 2, okay, take 2. Just go through the motion. So, but then in the end, I realized, Sean was very clever, because he didn't want her to think, oh, I told this kid to attack you, Because poor Adrian had been through so much. She had been slapped around by Betsy and Nicole, and, she just had enough by that point. So, he got what he needed, and then, he kind of chastised me in front of her, but then later on he gave me the kind of high five, buddy, secret buddy thing, because that's what it's all about. It's movie magic, and you gotta have that real feeling. And Sean, because you did ask about Sean, Sean Cunningham, I feel, is an unsung hero because his skill was to make things feel real by downplaying it and not having that classic, oh my God, kind of, although there are some screaming moments in Friday the 13th, there's a lot, but I tend to think that the way he did it, the way he paced it, to make it as real as possible. I'm sure there are people who will disagree, but to me, I think that's what he did that kind of makes the movie lasting.
Do you wish that you could have played Jason in more movies?
Oh, well, people often ask me that, but I'm not tall enough. Jason became a big guy. If I was 7 feet tall, sure,
Is that one of the craziest questions you get from fans? Or what would be some of the craziest questions that you get from fans?
Oh, wow. Well, people ask me all kinds of things about was I scared or how did I feel, or, questions about Mama Voorhees and all that complexity. But what I like to do is throw it right back at them, because, for the actor to interpret the meaning, for the audience member is too limiting. I like to see what they come up with. I mean, I've heard people say so many things. I mean, of course, my feeling is that little Jason was reanimated when the drop of blood from Mama Voorhees hit the water, in some kind of alchemical way, and,
right.
And she calls to him through the underworld, because now they're connected by death,
Right.
And she could speak to him. And that just made perfect sense to me. But I expressed that even on the set. And Tom Sweeney said, no, don't tell that to Sean, because in the script, it's not supposed to be real. Okay? And even on the set, I just said, no, I have the conviction that this is real. And he said to me, you know what? He didn't want to dim that enthusiasm. So he said, go with that. Because if you were a ghost in a dream, you'd think you were real. You wouldn't think I'm a ghost in a dream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he empowered me, but he said, don't say that to Sean, though. So we were playing our own game there. But later when I met Betsy Palmer, because remember, I didn't get to meet Betsy until that first Fangoria show. And she explained to me that she had created a sort of backstory, you might say, for her character, which was fully detailed, but it was just in her mind,
Yeah.
And that is what gave her character the richness that it did. So that made me feel vindicated. See, the funny thing is with movie acting, it's kind of like singing in the studio, and you get in there and you sing and you feel you've got it, but then, and they say, good, that's a good take. But then we always feel like, can we change it? Can we do it better? Can we add to it? But really, when that director or that sound engineer, if they're good and they know they've got the good take, you know what I'm saying? You just got to trust it, and then just always be prepared to do your best, and then trust it, and then we never know what the results are going to be. It's almost like a wild crapshoot. And sometimes you think you've done the most amazing job, and no one notices, and sometimes you didn't even notice what you did, and people go, that was stellar. So I think we just always have to be ready at all times to do our best all the time.
What is one of your favorite movies besides Friday the 13th?
Well, I always like to say Night of the Hunter. Night of the Hunter, which I could watch over and over again, starring Robert Mitchum, to me is the departure point from Gothic European-style horror to, I guess you'd say, American slasher films. Because it depicts a itinerant preacher who's a serial killer at around the Depression. And this movie, although people will say this isn't really a horror movie, it has some very horrific elements as he's chasing children and he's killing widows, and it's Shelley Winter's first film.
Wow.
And she's depicted on the bottom of a lake. I don't want to give away too much. And the use of music in this film is just amazing. And there's just something so American about this film. But it was directed by Charles Lawton, a Brit. It was the only movie he directed. But I'm just a huge Robert Mitchum fan. I think Robert Mitchum's approach to acting, he plays this amazing preacher in that movie. And That's where, in that movie, he has the words love and hate tattooed on his knuckles. And that's where that comes from, in Taxi Driver and from everybody. And he has this whole speech he tells, love was trying to kill hate. And hate came up and it looked like he was winning. But then love has the triumph in the end. Right. That's how he wins over all the old widows. But, that's one of my favorites. I have so many favorite movies. I mean, my God, if you're interested in Friday the 13th, see Dementia 13. Dementia 13, Francis Ford Coppola's first offering, black and white, starts on a lake.
Oh, I have that.
Two people in a boat. Yeah, it's a classic.
I have that split on DVD with Night of the Living Dead.
There you go. Two seminal films that led to many other films. But I just love Dementia 13 because it's like Friday the 13th juxtaposed onto a wealthy scenario of a mansion and an old woman who commemorates the date of her daughter's untimely drowning in the pond every year and thinks that she's getting messages from the dead child. And it's just a fantastic film. I mean, gosh, I could go on and on. There's so much great stuff. Have you watched Witchfinder General?
I have.
You're saying Vincent Price, another fave of mine.
Yes.
Because it's just so different. And it's got that wonderful historic element and the witchcraft. But, and then that ending is really kind of daring and gory. And
I watched that based on my love for the band Cathedral. Because they do a song. They do a song called Witchfinder General.
Oh, okay. I gotta go check that out.
Clips from the movie and stuff. They were a great band. Great stoner doom.
Is that a British band?
You know what?
Cathedral.
You know what? I don't know too much of the backstory aside from Lee Dorian is in a band called With the Dead now, and it was just cool stuff. A lot of good, slow, sludgy stoner doom.
Dig.
What are some of your favorite bands that influence you for first Jason or just as a musician?
Well, there you go. As a musician, I'm coming out of, Frank Zappa, Jimi Hendrix, Miles Davis, Bob Marley, Lee Scratch Perry. I mean, I'm coming out of all of these classic sources. Now, then it was several friends of mine who directed me towards, good metal, and I've benefited greatly from the open-heartedness of the metal and punk community. So what was I listening to? Bad Brains, back then, Dead Kennedys. Mm-hmm. But when we're looking at what's in my music, I think people will say it's kind of like it's got more of a Deep Purple, Motorhead, it's very heavy metal. There's other elements, and there's funk, and there's reggae, and there's a lot of different elements in my music across the board. I mean, I love King Crimson. You're talking about Crimson Cult. I'm a huge King Crimson fan. That used to be my shit, man. I was a big prog head, big prog head.
I like Voivod.
Led Zeppelin. I mean, forget it. Just on and on. I love it all. It's like, what don't I like? What don't I steal from? But there's so much great music out there. Recently I've been listening again to Lee Scratch Perry, who is a reggae artist who's been around since the 50s, right?
Wow.
Still recording. He's known for being a totally out there, creative, eccentric, original. Recently, he put out some stuff from Russia. He's working with these Russian artists, so who knows? I listen to like Thin Lizzy and Jethro Tull all the time. But then when I got to go, for instance, I love Devil Driver, Cradle of Filth. I love,
hell yeah.
Gojira. I mean,
oh, they're great.
I'm a Kveller, man. I'm not a Kvetcher, if I didn't like a band, I wouldn't mention it.
Right.
There's so much great music. Clutch. I mean, it just, one of the cool things that I love about now is how we can tour around the country. We've got the Spotify, and everyone in the van, it's not like we're just sitting there. It's like, oh, dude, put on this album. And then you're like, what? And then it's like, someone's like, no, check this out. And you're like, man,
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, what is this band from Mongolia? The Who, you heard about them? The Who, H.U.? We're like listening to that shit. There's so much great music out there right now. It's a great time to be alive. And you know what? I think that even though this quarantine, man, it's been a challenge for everybody, but I think it's brought out the best in the music community, because even a lot of bands that hadn't flexed their muscles in a little while. Can I be freaking Blue Oyster Cult, one of my favorite all-time bands, came out with a new freaking album.
Yeah, and it was pretty good.
I thought so too. That song, The Alchemist. I mean, shit, I love that horror rock shit. I got to meet them in New York because we would record in a place where they rehearsed, Countdown Studios. So they would we would always hang out and like smoke weed, and I was like hanging out with Blue Oyster Cult, man.
That's badass.
Yeah, man.
That's a killer.
I mean, it's important. It's very important for everybody to have their own voice and to be original, but also, or I shouldn't say but, and always draw upon, like, they're saying, steal from the best,
Right.
Without shame.
Yeah, Phil Anselmo said, I'm a big Phil guy, but Phil said, rip off your artists, man, rip them off, because you know what? It's not going to end up sounding exactly the same anyways.
That's true. That's so true. And Phil,
wear them on your sleeve.
Anselmo gave me a break at one time. He invited me to open for his first housecore festival in Austin.
Oh,
and
the film festival.
I was still wet behind the ears as far as a metal artist, for real. And he extended full open arms to me and had us, and then Chuck from Macabre was there too. And yeah, what an experience that was. My gosh. And we got to see Guar and Down and,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his and all that New Orleans metal.
Well, that's what's not to like. I mean, my gosh.
Goat Whore.
Amazing bands. And his music is amazing. I think he's an amazing singer. What blew me away was watching Down live.
Oh, yeah.
See, that was like...
I've seen Down.
To me, that was like going to the Museum of Modern Art of metal.
Could you imagine opening up for Down?
I wouldn't want to come on after them, that's for sure.
No fucking way.
I might want to open for them and then, hi. But, I mean, just, what a concept.
Well, before I let you go, I want to ask you what your most memorable experience was playing the original Jason Voorhees.
Most memorable experience. The most memorable experience was when Tom Savini and Tasos Stavrakis, who created that amazing character that I was honored to play, finally completed the makeup that I had not seen. And it was on me. It was on my face for the first time at the Camp Crystal Lake location. Okay? And what they had is in a barber chair. They had finished, 4 hours of work. And it was very early in the morning. We were getting ready to shoot. And the sun was just rising. And they said, okay, we're going to leave the studio. We're going to turn you around so that you can see what you look like in the mirror.
Oh, man.
And it was unreal, bro. It was unreal. Because, you know, I was in the zone, and I was focused, I was a little actor. But when you turn around and you see that kind of, it was like, who's that? I thought, who's that? Then I realized, oh, my God, you know, that's me. Wow, man, just goosebumps. And it was a surrealistic moment of transition and transformation and empowerment. And yet at the same time, sympathy for the character. Because, you know, the character, it's like a half and half. You know, he's a unique character. So that's the moment where, wow, they really helped me to get into that character. And, you know, I think that if anybody deserves a lot of accolades and credit, it is Tom Savini, because Tom really was the magician in that moment that made it happen.
Yeah, the arrow through Kevin Bacon, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was amazing. And the crazy thing about that is, you know, that scene, I was actually on the set, and they had thought, you know, just a little detail, a little gory detail, the blood that kind of spurts out of his mouth, that's because they had blown the blood out, and then it went back into Savini's throat, right, literally, and he was going to swallow it, so he just blew it out like that, right? So then after they said cut, he said, no, it can't be good because I did this. But John said, no, it looked awesome. You never know what can happen. But
so that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We've always got to be ready, to always do your best all the time. And you never know what happens. Because it's up to the fans, isn't it? Isn't it, Jay?
Yes, it is. All right, Ari, thank you for being a part of the Crimson Cult tonight.
Thank you.
May peace be with you, and tonight I'm going to check out the barn.
Dr. Rock. That's a lot of fun, and get ready, because Dr. Rock has an even bigger part in the barn, too. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Jay.
All right, Ari.
Send me the link so I can share this with everybody.
I will, bud.
Thank you, man. Rock and roll, brother.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.